Okay, good morning. Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome back. Parshas Balak, 5 to go. The theme of Parshas Balak for this year, 5784, is the more things change, the more they stay the same. We will see that Balak and Bilam both team up together to curse the Jewish people. They decide that at this point to try to physically attack the Jewish people, it's not going to work. So Balak goes to a sworn enemy, teams up with Midian, then teams up with Bilam to put together a team, a league of nations, to ultimately try to destroy the Jewish people. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And I want to show you through two different points how really there's a difference in what motivates Bilam and what motivates Balak in their hatred of Am Yisrael. And this can be appreciated or recognized even in the world that we live in today. We have enemies that are attacking us from within and from without and all over, and their motivations are not necessarily the same, but they're all equal in terms of their hatred of Am Yisrael, whether they use the word Zionism or they use the word whatever it is, it's all the same. It's all the same, but from different motivations. And this is what happens in the beginning of Parshas Balak. Balak, the Torah tells us, says that he wants to curse the Jewish people. He tells these messengers to tell Bilam that we want to curse the people. Ki atzum hu mimeni, they are stronger than us. Ulai uchal nakebo, perhaps we can chip away at them. We can hurt them. Va'agarshenu min haaretz, ki adati is asher tivarach mivarach. Vasher ta'or you are. And we're going to megaresh, we're going to remove them from the land. Now, what is he referring to? What land is he referring to that he wants to remove them from? That's the first point. Secondly, when Bilam speaks to Hashem, right? The messengers then go to Bilam. He talks to them, and Bilam says, I can't act on my own. I need to speak to God. Bilam explains what is happening. Vayomer Bilam el ha'elokim, Balak ben Tzipor malach Moav shalach elai. Balak sent people to me. Look, I'm such a chashiv guy. You didn't think I was so chashiv. I'm a chashiv guy. Hine'am hayotzei mi Mitzrayim, vayichas ein haaretz. There is a nation that has left Egypt and has covered the entire land. Ata lecha kavalioso, and Balak is asking me to curse them. Ulai uchal lihlachem bo, maybe by cursing them we will weaken their defenses. Vegeirashtiv, and I can remove them. The same language. Bilam says vegeirashtiv, and I'm going to expel them. And Balak says, Ve'argarshenu min haaretz, I will expel them from the land. You read these carefully, you think that they are both the same. But says Rashi, or really the Mefarshim, it's not Rashi consistently, the Dasikain Mibali Tosfos and the Chizkuni both say the simplest interpretation from Balak. Balak is nervous about one basic thing. At the end of Parshas Chukas, the Jewish people conquered the land of Sichon. They had a war with Sichon, and they now are inhabiting the land of Sichon. So says the Dasakanim, what does Balak want? He wants to remove the Jewish people from the land of Sichon because it originally belonged to him. Me'eret sheli, shelachu miyad Sichon shekavash miyad Moav. I want to remove them from my land. They're occupying my land right here. I want them out. I want them out of this land. Chizkuni says it a little bit differently. It's not my land. It originally belonged to me. Then Sichon took it over, but I want it back. I want it back. That's what Balak wants from the Jewish people. His hatred stems from the fact that he wants them removed from this land that he claims originally belonged to him. Rashi writes, when it comes to it comes to Bilam, describing what Balak wants to Hashem, V'geirashtiv. I want to expel them. From where? He doesn't say from the land. Rashi says, min ha'olam. Ubalak lo amar ela v'arishana min haaretz. Einu mevakesh ela sim elai. Balak just wanted to get rid of the nuisance because they're so close to me. They smell, they're disgusting. I don't want them near me. Get them out of here. But Bilam wanted to get rid of the entire nation. He wanted to annihilate, expel, create another Holocaust, and murder all the Jewish people. Ubilam hayasonam yoser mi Balak. Balak, you can't blame him. He knew to choose the right guy. Bilam, says Rashi, hated the Jewish people more than Balak. And that you see is a difference in thought in terms of what they were trying to do. Nonetheless, they team up together. The Shemi Shmuel, the Sakachav Rabbi, I saw this quoted in his name. He says something a little bit deeper. Vagarshenu min haaretz. The Torah doesn't say min artzi, from my land, but I want them expelled from the land with the capital L, the land, haaretz. What land is he referring to? The land of Israel. This was a pretext. This whole thing about Sichon and the land and they're next to us, it was all a pretext. They did not want the Jewish people to go into Eretz Yisrael. That would have been such an offense to the entire narrative of their entire history. The Vilna Gaon on this pasuk explains this kabbalistically. Amr b'Zohar min haaretz daika min eretz elyona. He doesn't want the Jewish people to reach the land, this very high, lofty land. What does that mean? I'm going to use my own language now. Is that one of the roles of Am Yisrael in history is to ki mitzion teitzei Torah, is that if the Jewish people are doing well in Eretz Yisrael, and we are getting along with one another, then our job is to, from Eretz Yisrael, spread light to the entire world. Be an Or Lagayim, educate the entire world. Be a place, a wellspring of knowledge and chachma and goodness that we're able to give to the entire world. When we sing V'haviosim on Yamin Noraim, we refer to the Beis HaMikdash, Ki hi beisi beis tefillah l'chol ha'amim. It's a place where the entire world is going to go to pray to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Everyone's going to recognize Bayomahu Yashem Echad U'Shemo Echad. What were they afraid of? Balak and Bilam did not want this to happen. They wanted the people to stay with their promiscuity. They wanted to be the leaders of this world that was just chasing after all the lust and all the things that Hashem detests, or the Jewish people are against. And by preventing us from entering Eretz Yisrael, the world could not get to this next stage, and that was ultimately their goal. And this we see very, very clearly. Ultimately, at the end of the parsha, when Bilam realizes the curses are not going to be effective, what does he do? He calls in Zima. He calls in the promiscuity to go rampant all over the Jewish people. And unfortunately, he was way too successful. When he realizes the beauty of the Jewish people, he speaks about the tense. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, right? The beauty, the tznius, the modesty of Am Yisrael, and that potential that could spread through the entire world. That was something that was so against Balak and Bilam that they were grossed out, disgusted by this. Strange bedfellows, right? With common enemies. And that's what we see here from Balak and from Bilam. That is point number 1. Secondly,
Rabbi, question.
Is that Jay?
Has that? Yes, thank you. Has that time ever existed where we were all a goyim?
There was probably brief moments from the time that like David was at the end of his life through the beginning of Shlomo's reign. If you learning the beginning of Sefer Malachim, around like Perek Yud, Yud Aleph, around there, you see that all the foreign nations want to go to the Beis HaMikdash. They want to marvel in it and presumably pray there. And also, they are very affected by Shlomo's Chachma in a very profound way. It was a short moment in history, but something that we would like to get back to Be'ezrat Hashem very soon. The Rav Moshe Feinstein in the Kol Ram highlights this in a different way. He points out the following. We already quoted one of these psukim, that when Balak, this is just one pasuk earlier, when Balak refers to the Jewish people, he says to them, Hine am yatsa mimitzrayim. What are they? They're a nation that has left Egypt in the past. Hine am yatsa mimitzrayim. Balak, sorry, that's Balak. Bilam says, Hine am hayotze mimitzrayim. It's a nation that is leaving Egypt. Not left, but is leaving Egypt. We are dealing with now, the story of Balak and Bilam takes place in year 40 of the Jewish people leaving Egypt, the 40 of the Midbar. This is a long time after the Jewish people left Egypt. What is going on here? Does Bilam not know his history? Or does Bilam know and understand something much deeper? Rav Moshe then points out
Rabbi,
yeah.
There's that expression, Moshe took them out of Egypt, but how did he get Egypt out of them? And maybe that this is where Egypt is just getting out of them as slaves.
Oh, okay, very good. So you're saying that Bilam knows something about us, and he knows that it takes a lot longer to leave Egypt, spiritually.
To leave Egypt behind. To leave it behind.
What's the line? You could take the Jewish people out of Egypt, but you can't take Egypt out of the Jewish people. Yeah, so that took 40 years in the Midbar. You are 100% correct. And maybe this is a proof for this idea.
This is a new generation.
Right, and this is a new generation. They're mostly, it's almost, I think it's, I'm not sure if it's done yet, Yassi, but it's almost there. It's almost there. A second difference is that Balak says, Hine kis'a es ein haaretz. The Jewish people are like covering the entire land. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Versus Bilam says, Vayichas es ein haaretz. They're going to cover the entire land. Right? Ein haaretz refers to like the surface of the land. So Balak emphasis on Kisa in the past, and they left Egypt, or currently they're covering the land. Bilam is they're leaving Egypt, and they're going to cover the land. So says Rav Moshe that the sinah towards the Jewish people is fundamentally different, and it relates to what we just said. Balak can't stand the Jewish people for who they are right now. He can't mingle with them. They left Egypt. He understood that they left Egypt in the past, and what they want to do now is just to be with everybody else. Kisas in haaretz. They want to disperse themselves and spread themselves out, and they want to be with us, with Moabites, with the Midianites, with everyone. And he says, that is so like, ugh, to me. I can't stand a Jew. I can't be here. I can't be with them. Versus Bilam. Bilam understood that that's not what the Jewish people wanted. That was not the goal of Am Yisrael. Rather, we are a nation, and Bilam said this first, Hein Am Levadad Yishkon. We don't want to be biyachad with everybody else mixed in. We want to be, we're a nation that's levad. We're alone, we're unique, we're singular. We're going to educate and teach to the entire world. Hein Am Levadad Yishkon. We understand that we're constantly leaving Egypt. That the leaving of Egypt is not just a memory, but it's a reality, something that we remember each and every year to remind ourselves our unique mission in this world. Bilam knew that that would always be a part of who we are and part of our identity. And little did he know, maybe he did know, a few thousand years later, we are still recognizing us and celebrating the fact that we left Egypt. Vayichas es ein haaretz. What was Bilam concerned about? That the knowledge of the Jewish people would cover the entire land. And he couldn't, he abhorred that knowledge, that idea, that notion that we would spread our wings throughout the entire world, to spread our influence throughout the world. This really dovetails on the first idea that we mentioned, really from the Sakachava Rabbi, but even deepens this notion about how they are so different in the way that they wanted to destroy us right now in our parsha. In the very beginning pages of our siddur, we have the tefillah of Matovu Oalecha Yaakov Mishkenosecha Yisrael. And in fact, it is said in many svarim that when one enters shul in the morning, one should have those words of Matovu on their lips. And it's something that is taught to us as very young children. Matovu Oalecha Yaakov. At the same time, the Avudraham, Rav David Avudraham, who was, he wrote probably the first Perush on the Siddur, one of our Rishonim, writes that this does not belong in our Siddur. How dare we have a prayer in our Siddur that was said by Oso Russia, by somebody whose intention was to curse the Jewish people? How dare that belong in our Siddur? Rabbi Lamb Zatzal has a beautiful drasha on this idea. And he says, why is it that it's still in our Siddur? Sfardim, Ashkenazim, why is it still here? So he says that Bilam intended to curse us. As he intended to curse us, it turned into a blessing. Rabbi Lamb says, isn't that really the story of the Jewish people? Everything that seems to be intended as a curse for us eventually turns into a blessing. That is really the story of the Jewish people. And every single morning, he says, we educate our young children and adults to say Matovu, that even though the day might look very hard, it might even look like a curse, it can turn into a beautiful, beautiful blessing. And who knows, 50 years from now, we'll be looking at this time and we'll saying, we don't understand exactly what happened 284 days ago, but look what it turned into for Am Yisrael. That can happen to us and continues to happen to us on a national level, but also it should happen to us on a personal level. When we see things that potentially are klalos in our life, we should have a matovu spin, and they should turn into brachos. I find this idea extremely, extremely inspiring about the power of matovu and how it could change and shift our lives for the better. The last idea for this morning really goes back to that pasuk that we just mentioned, that when Bilam is sending a message to Balak, he says, Eis asher tivarach mivorach, ve'eis asher ta'or you are. Balak tells Bilam that whoever you bless will be blessed. Whenever you curse, will be cursed. Okay? If Balak knew that Bilam had the power to bless and to curse, why did he insist on requesting a curse for the Jewish people? Why not say, Bilam, give me a bracha? Instead of cursing my enemies, give me a bracha that I am stronger than them. Secondly, mivorach is in the past tense. And ta'or, you are, will curse in the future. Rabbi Yisrael Meir Druk, Shlita, develops a very beautiful idea that we already find in earlier Rishonim, that Bilam was a faker. Bilam really had no idea about how to bless people. He only knew how to curse. He was able to make it look like someone who already got a blessing, got it because of him. He was able to manipulate people's minds. And when someone was blessed, he would convince them or convince other people that it was all due to him. That's why it's in the past tense. Eis asher tivarach mivorach in the past. He's not capable of giving blessing. But to our you are, he was wonderful. He was an expert. He was a Rabbi in giving klalos. And that's
Rabbi.
why it's in the future tense that that's who he was. Yes, Nathan.
When Bilam said Matovu Holecha, was he not saying that he was admiring the Jewish people? That was from admiration.
Right.
Even he had to do that.
Correct. So if you look at the psukim right before he opens his mouth for Matovu, the Torah says, Vayasem Hashem davar b'fi Bilam, that Hashem placed that in Bilam's mouth, meaning that Bilam does not, this is how Rav Druk would understand it, that he did not have the capability to bless on his own unless God put those words directly into his mouth. And from the blessing, we know how Bilam wanted to curse us, right? It's the miklal lavat hashamehem. We understand what the curse would have been. And that's a very different approach to Bilam itself, but we can really appreciate Bilam. And really, when we turn to ourselves, many of us are inclined sometimes to curse rather than to bless. It's so easy for people to complain and to focus on the negative rather than to focus on the positive and to shower people with praise. and we should think, are we B'nai Bilam or are we B'nai Avraham? Avraham was the opposite. Avraham had the power to heal. How did he heal? It was through the brachos. It was through giving people brachos and emphasizing the positive within each and every person. We began today by highlighting differences between Balak and Bilam, the Geirashtiv min haaretz, or just Geirashtiv, and what was the focus there? Balak versus Bilam. Then we saw covering the land now. They left Egypt in the past versus leaving Egypt in the future. They're always leaving Egypt, and they're going to cover the land. Why do we say Matovu, even though it was said by Bilam? And lastly, what was the essence of Bilam's nature as a charlatan? He had no ability to bless, only to curse. Wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos.
Rabbi,
Yes.
question. Do we have any data on knowing the size of the Bnei Yisrael versus all these other nations in terms of how many people there were in these countries, like in Sichon or Moab? Were we bigger, smaller?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, we were a couple of million people, no? At this time, what are we? I mean,
we
people
lost
would die. People were dying in the midbar. So, did we go down in size?
No, I think we stayed the same. In Pinchas, we have another census, but we lost a fifth of our nation in Egypt before we left. I'm not sure. It's a good question.
It says Ki atem hama'at mikol ha'amim. So the Torah says, right.
But how I just like with vision, like did they look at us as a threat because we had so many people, or were we bigger than them, smaller than them?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But Abe is correct. At the end of Parashat Chanan, we say that we are at mikol ha'amim. That's important to think about. Okay, wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos. Our chayalim should return home safely, and our hostages, Bezrat Hashem, should be home very, very soon.
Rabbi, Monday we have the birthday club on Monday.
Great.
Birthday club breakfast on Monday morning. Okay. Have a good Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos.
Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos, have a